What is up, guys? Back into another reaction to Oshi no Ko, this time of season 2 episode 2. Really awesome first episode back last week. Love the new opening and ending, but lots of interesting well, I love the setup for the season, it being like a whole kind of stage play. I think it's like a 2D theater or something like that, 3D theater. I can't remember the exact name for it. Crazy end to the episode as well. I've just seen the author. Crazy end to the episode last week. Can't wait to pick up exactly where we left off. But yeah, really interesting setup. Akane seemed like she's gonna be quite featured in this this arc, I guess I call it, which is nice. She's currently having a bit of trouble with the script, isn't she? So I feel like this author stuff is actually quite good for her. Kana going to be a big part again. Lots of old faces we're seeing here, but a lot of new faces. I was especially impressed by that. Again, I can't remember the name. You guys know the names I'm terrible with. But the kind of, that guy, I think, the big time actor that's co-starring with Kana, he had some aura about him last week, didn't he? He was like an absolutely normal dude, and then when he turned it on to act, is ruthless. I wonder how much Ruby we'll see this season. I love this part of the opening, man. I love that part of the opening. It really like perfectly blends Oshi no Ko and this kind of this play right here. Yeah, here we go. I can't wait to see what comes from this. It might also be one of those things where Akane is such a small part right now. She might actually end up being, a lot of the time actually, the kind of one of the side characters end up being the real star of like shows. So perhaps that's what might happen with Akane. Here we go. Rewrite it all. Burn it all. Write it again. All of it. Zenbu. Everything. Kind of smile a little bit. Oh, is that not what's going to happen? Oh, that's a shame. That not what's going to happen? Ah, I hope that still happens. I feel like they only rewinded the time there. It's not like events have been rewritten. It's not like we're actually going back to the past from the future. I think this is just looking back at the lead up to that. So hopefully that still happens. I'm hoping, again, that's not something that's like going to change. That was an awesome moment last week. And I think it will still happen. If it doesn't, I'm calling bullshit, but I don't think that's going to be the case. Thank you. Bit of studying, huh? I feel like with acting and such, there's only so far you can get with like studying. I mean, I guess we'll actually really see the degree of that with Akane. I feel like she might very much prove me wrong in saying that, but I feel like in the real world there's only so much studying you can do to be an actor. Obviously you want to study your roles and such, but like study as in how to be an actor, how to get in that zone and such, remember lines and things like that. Tough old business that. The eyes are always so beautiful, aren't they? And yeah, this is the guy I was talking about earlier. What was that? But he's gonna smash his head. And he just gives him a weak little side foot. Like, oh! And then he just goes like that. His beard looks like I know it's actually drawn. I know this is like an actual drawing. It's an animation, but it's a beard. It's funny because it looks like a drawn on beard on a drawing. If that makes sense. It is literally a drawn on beard, but it looks like a beard that was drawn on. If that makes any sense to you guys, it looks so strange. It also looks a bit like my beard. So maybe I'm just dissing myself. But again, I'm excited to see that that main cast. That's with Kanna. This guy with the glasses I got kicked just there. I'm excited to see more about him. Maybe he might prove me wrong as well. He looks like a studier. Then again, shouldn't judge people just based solely off looks. Okay. Have there? These two got a lot of scenes together. Yeah, it is. Yes. Oh, she sounds like she's in an R, but that is true. You don't actually see that too often in real life, do you? Most likely because actors don't, well, I say actors don't really marry actors, but it would be quite a coincidence to have an actual situation end up like that. Okay, Fox guy. So this is where she brings up troubles about the adaptation, I guess. Little old me. How do you take the shitty ones? What do you think about the shitty ones? You should let them be? Or are you mad about them? This was a meeting to make another meeting. But there are people like this, aren't there? I saw one once live on a live while watching football. There was just watching on TV. They were like panning around, as they usually do sometimes when nothing's happening, panning around the stadium a little bit. There was just some guy just brushing his teeth in the crowd. Again, not often you see those type of people, but I can understand that. To be honest with you, as someone that I didn't really look after myself, I couldn't have understood that maybe 10 years ago. I said before, I was a bit of a delinquent kid in a lot of senses. Didn't look after myself whatsoever in any kind of terms. So yeah, I wouldn't have understood that whatsoever. But I can understand that. There are especially certain types of food that you have to brush your teeth after. Chicken's one for me usually. It's like an apple or something as well for me. I don't brush my teeth straight after, but I can't get like a bit out of my tooth or something, just don't brush them. It's tough, isn't it? Sorry to pause again, but it's tough, isn't it? It's like, how much do you insert yourself? I mentioned last week, I quite like when adaptations actually change things. But I don't always like that. Sometimes they are just better when they're just a one-for-one adaptation. But I like innovation and such like that. I don't, especially if I was more of a manga reader. That's the thing. Funny enough, I see like loads of manga readers mad that their adaptations aren't one-for-one. They're skipping stuff. They're adding new stuff in that is pointless. But I feel like if I've already read the manga, I'd want like some kind of like slight spin, some kind of additional scene, some kind of additional context or something like that would be really cool. Maybe take something away I didn't care too much about. So I like that in some cases, but usually I won't lie. Usually it does end up being worse if they do kind of change little parts of the story and such. But again, as we see here, maybe it's actually a harder job keeping it as it was in some cases, because you get, if you are to get involved in the production of like a show like this, you might end up just like ruining the timing, making people do too much extra work, like as we saw in the last episode, rewrite the whole shit. Like, how much work have they got to do to rewrite Akane's character in a more interesting like position? They've got to not just rewrite her character, but other characters' reactions to her, timing and so on, people learning stuff. It's like she's saying here, it's a whole bunch of chaos. I love these looks into just like this industry. I find it absolutely fascinating about the show. Like, this is my main interest in the show, honestly. That these kind of topics that it covers, as well as I feel like these topics are really interesting, but especially like the human kind of element of these topics as well is really interesting. Like, imagine being someone on the other end of this, where maybe your role actually gets smaller because Akane's gets bigger, or maybe your role, you're still as big a part of it as you were before, but you now have to do all this extra learning and work just because they're changing a few things about another character. It's like, maybe it might seem quite unfair, maybe you might like that, who knows. But yeah, I love this stuff right here. I think it's genius. These things are just like things that get skipped over a lot of the time. Like, imagine it might be quite hard to get around someone's thoughts, like the authors. Like, maybe you're not actually interpreting the story correctly. you see a lot of authors work with the production a lot nowadays, though, don't you? Like it's like an easy one is like the One Piece live adaptation, which I don't really like personally. I feel like it actually feels soulless. The actors do a decent job. But I mean, just in terms of like backgrounds and settings in the show, I feel they're just awful. Unpopular opinion, I know, because everyone seems to love the anime, the live action adaptation of One Piece, but I really don't like it. I was never a massive fan of the start of One Piece in general, but again, just like the backgrounds and stuff, I feel like such a vibe is missing. Okay, so now we're back here. This guy is totally on board with it. Just a fake beard. And it's also sad for people like this that did try and interpret it. Like, imagine you've got this job. Imagine there are certain manga and stories you are fond of, and then perhaps, I'm not saying this is the case here exactly, but imagine you just get handed one that you're told to adapt and you've never read it before, you don't know anything about it, and you have to interpret it within a certain amount of time to adapt it into a live action like performance and such. I think it would be very easy to misinterpret some things and get things wrong, wouldn't it? So again, I just love the fact that it looks at all these little roles and such and all these little moving pieces. I feel terrible for this guy because it's obviously been his job to adapt it, and it's a fucking tough job to do. I feel like adapting a manga to an anime is a lot easier because you can do everything with an anime, can't you? There's no kind of like budget limitations or kind of limitation to things. It's all what you can draw, and you can draw everything. So you've got like no limitations. But I feel like especially with like plays, movies, a little bit less so because again you have special effects and such in movies nowadays, like CGI and all that. I feel like that's why a lot of horror movies especially were better in like the 80s, 70s and such, where there wasn't any CGI because the effects looked absolutely phenomenal. It's one of those things where by having limitations, you actually, that kind of common saying of you actually have more freedom when you actually have more limitations on you. It actually like comes out better, it's more creative having more limitations than less limitations. I think maybe America is a good example of that, honestly. The more freedom they have, the worse things seem to get. I find, I don't know, but yeah, just a lot of really interesting points. I feel bad for this guy, like he's kind of, this would be hard to take. This guy is shitting himself as well. I mean, it sounds quite pretentious, doesn't it? But she does just care about so much about her work, so you've got to respect it. How is he to know that? Like, it came from your head. Like, only you know some of these things. You can understand where both point of views, can't you? My babies. Ah, look at her, like director fucking rolled up. Calm down. Again, I understand. I was on her side. Like, again, I was quite hyped. Sorry, I keep pausing. By the way, I was on her side a little bit last. Look at her get out back. Munchkin. I'm kind of on her side, like still because it's her material and such. But again, how is he meant to know what you know the characters would and would not say? Like a lot of the time, you could perhaps infer that. Don't get me wrong, but she has she created it, so she has all the knowledge, like knowledge of stuff that hasn't even appeared, if you know what I'm saying. And I feel like it would be very easy to get in this situation as someone adapting someone else's manga, wouldn't it? She honestly, if it was going to be like this, maybe she shouldn't have agreed to it, or should have been further involved at an earlier point in helping create the script. I think would have actually been like the perfect scenario, wouldn't it? Again, you see that a lot nowadays of the actual creators getting majorly involved in production. Oh, fucking dear. Oh, that went awfully, didn't it? Yep. We'll see if this becomes an absolute mess. Seems like a nice, genuine guy though, so I feel bad for him. And again, none of this involves the author. Maybe the author should have been involved in some of this. There she is. Bit like Chinese whispers. Why is it called Chinese whispers, by the way? I'm not. No, I'll leave that for my curiosity later if I remember. I'm not going to pause and Google that just yet. Like maybe she should also look at this as it's her work being adapted, but it's not actually her work, if that makes sense. Like this will be the work of the scriptwriter and the director of this play, more than it will be her creation. Like this is like their play on her creation, if that makes sense. I mean, again, she might see that as disrespectful and such, so obviously don't go through with it if that's the case. But I feel like it'd be pretty interesting to see someone else's depiction of my work, even if it is very simplistic and against some of the characters. There could be some pretty innovative and interesting stuff in there. Yeah, funny enough, that's probably happened in like 10 places right now. People fucking arguing over shit like this. And it's so funny as well to think about, like, this actually, like, I mean, like, this is entertainment for people, don't get me wrong, but this actually just, like, and it's people's jobs. Like, there is a lot on this, but, like, factually, this means nothing. This is just a story someone's created that people read, that they're going to play for. Like, in terms of, like, the universe, this means nothing. If that makes any sense. This is, like, absolutely nothing to a 99% of the world population. 99.9% of the world's population. None of this stuff means anything, but it means so much. It's quite funny to think about. Pay up. I feel terrible for this guy. I was going to say earlier, I don't know if I mentioned it or not, but you imagine a lot of authors. This woman seems quite normal. But you do imagine a lot of people that do have it, especially maybe in Japan, because there is a lot of crazy ideas. The people that have these crazy ideas, they seem like normal people, but they're probably a little bit crazy up there. I think everyone's a little crazy to some degree. But these people that make these like whack fantasy stories and such, they've got to that's got to come out somewhere within them, hasn't it? And that's got to be, especially with like the big ones, there's got to be an exceedingly kind of strange kind of thought process or something along those lines to make a kind of masterpiece movie or something. I feel there's got to be that kind of crazy genius that gets something to stand out above all these other stories. And I think you can kind of see that a little bit in the appearance of this. I mean, she said that was her. That was one that she worked for this glasses woman before, and then now she surpassed her. And I think with just the designs of the characters, you can kind of infer that she's a little bit crazier. And you probably would be able to tell that she got more successful. If that makes any sense. I hope that makes some kind of sense. But it's like that crazy genius, isn't it? Again, I feel terrible for this guy because I think he's not a crazy guy. I think he's just a normal scriptwriter trying to just like do his job. But he doesn't have the same type of thoughts as I've been talking about as this the author. So I like this guy. Yeah, I like him. Imagine this being your reality as well, just like being dropped, stuff like this must feel terrible. Well, that's a good way of putting it. It's like altering someone else's food and making it taste horrible. Adding a few different spices that don't mix well. And usually I think they'd put like a fake person's name in that role once this happens. That's happened to a few movies I've seen where they put a fake director's name in place of the actual director because they didn't want to be associated with it. A mishap. I feel terrible for this guy. It's kind of sad as well because we'll never know what his version looked like. Could have been good. It could have been different and worse to the author, but it could have been good. Damn. Man, maybe I shouldn't have been so hyped last week. Again, I didn't think of who it would affect. I just loved the fact that maybe Akane was getting a bigger role. It was a lot to take, wasn't it, from this author? She was so mean. She was actually so mean and letting her emotions out like that. Again, you can understand where they came from, but the way she done it was not good, was it? Ouch, shit. And now imagine again being one of these actors now. Oh, we read the whole script we practiced, but now that's all out. That's all out. we got to get another new script, the new lines, and a whole. Yeah, it's just a ball ache. I imagine. And again, all this faffing about, and like I said, it actually just like kind of faffing over nothing in a funny way. So again, I know it's a big deal because these people make it a big deal. I don't really care for theatre or musicals or anything. Not a big fan personally. You know what I did like though? I did quite like Rakugo. Well, that was pretty cool. That's a bit like a stage play, but just like again, it's so limited. It's actually so creative because it's limited so much. Well, could I refuse? Sorry, guys. Game of telephone. So yeah, let's Google why it's called Chinese Whispers. What's Chinese got to do with it? That's what I'm like. What the main question is. Why is it? Imagine watching this episode of fucking Oshi no Ko, and the first thing you're actually looking up is why is it called Chinese Whispers? British fascination with Chinese culture. So, because us Brits like the Chinese culture, is what you're telling me? I don't know. Yeah, that's Google for you nowadays. You don't. I swear again, 10 years ago and such, you go on Google, you used to get the answer to the questions you'd have. Nowadays, it just like takes keywords and just tries to find other stuff, and it's shit. Yeah, really good episode. You guys know I really enjoy this show anyway, but another awesome episode today. I feel like it was an especially good look at how productions are. It might enlighten a few people, because again, you see people talking about productions and shit on Twitter, like production problems, and they're always dissing people like, oh, how could this be delayed again, blah blah blah. It's like, if you had any idea what goes into making this stuff, you wouldn't be chatting as much shit as you are. I feel like that comes I don't know, I was talking about that in my Aoya-san video about the whole kind of inner monologue versus people without an inner monologue. I feel like that comes from the people that don't think before they speak, which again used to be me. I used to not think before I spoke throughout all of high school, and then I turned into an adult and gained an inner monologue. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Again, really good episode. Love the look of the author. Again, she actually we're obviously on her side to begin with, and I feel like that's the side that everyone usually always takes during like an anime adaptation, and it's like gone wrong. Like this is not exactly the case, but think back like the Promised Neverland, with the whole season 2 of Promised Neverland just being absolute shit. Everyone's like that. It's not like author versus production. I don't think there was anything like that anyway. It was like the audience takes the side of, I wanted it to be the perfect adaptation of what the actual material was, and everyone, that's like the popular and the side that again objectively probably is correct, but again, you don't know what goes into that. You don't know if there was think like watching this episode and think back to that fucking shit stain of a season 2, that there was like major chaos during the production of like just like so many people wanting different things, and it just ended up again just being an absolute shit show. Can end up like that, like the analogy was earlier, maybe a bit too many kind of cooks in the kitchen, just adding different spices and making the lovely meat turn into just like a ragged, horrible mess. But yeah, loved the look at the authors we got today. Loved the look at the script writer we got to see today. I thought his section was brilliant. Just his kind of vision of things, I think, was kind of terrible, wasn't it? It was yeah, it's just really interesting to think about. It's disastrous, like being in that position where he gave up all of his other work. He didn't give up, but he put it to the side. He had this as his main project, tried as hard as he could. He read through the whole story. Again, it was the case of he never read it before, I think, wasn't it? Had to try and interpret it after reading it and adapt it into a very different medium in a play. and he failed in only the eyes of the author, by the way. He only failed in the eyes of the author. No one, not us, the audience, no one apart from the actors got to even read the script, let alone see the play. So like, it could have been good and could have been a success. So it's a bit of a shame, but yeah, I loved all the different perspectives we got today. I thought, yeah, just absolutely brilliant episode. Let me know what you guys thought of this one though down in the comment section. Make sure to leave a like on the video if you guys did like, and subscribe to the channel if you want to keep up to date. I'll be back next week with episode 3, so hopefully I'll see you guys then, and have a good rest of your day, guys.